Welcome back to another edition of Where's a Teaspoon? Today we're talking with Declan Moore, who is Head of Health and Safety here at DCHS. And in his free time, Declan is a facilitator with Andy's Man Club. Hi Declan, thank you for joining us today.
Hi there, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to talk about Andy's Man Club. I hope I don't talk too much. I tend to have a lot to say on the subject.
I think it's a really important subject to talk about, so I think that will be fine. Can you maybe start off and tell us what is Andy's Man Club?
Andy's Man Club it started off in 2016. A young man called Andy Roberts, he was 23 years old. He had a fantastic weekend with the family, played football with his friends on Saturday, lunch with the family on Sunday, and he was found dead on Monday morning, and nobody knew why. His mother and his brother-in-law were absolutely lost for words. Everything outwardly appeared happy-go-lucky. As a result of that, basically, they put a call out on Facebook to ask men, did they fancy coming for a chat with each other? And 9 people turned up to that meeting to have a cup of coffee and a chat. Since it started in June 2016, it's become one of the largest mental health support groups in the UK, and arguably one of the largest on the planet. Last Monday, like every Monday, we opened the door to 185 clubs across the UK. So every major town and city has now got Andy's Man Club in it. And across the country, 4,583 men came through those doors looking for help of some sort. Andy's Man Club is set up for all men over the age of 18 years. That's the only entry criteria. You must be over 18. And it's a peer-to-peer support group. It's not offering counselling. It's not offering to fix anybody. Originally intended, as you can imagine, as a suicide prevention intervention, it's actually become more of a support group with people that are depressed, people that are getting down, feeling the pressures of life. And I think it's necessary when you think 4,500 people take their own life in the UK every year, and 75% of those are men.
Yeah. Within
a certain age group. Men are not particularly good at talking about what's hurting them. I don't think men are brought up as boys to talk about the feelings, stiff upper lip, pull your bootstraps up, get on with it. And they turn into men that basically don't have the inner resources to deal with the things in life that affect us all. Yeah. In some cases, we're all going to experience bereavement. We're all going to experience relationship breakup or financial difficulties or problems with our career being on the right path. And I think if men just keep all that inside, they presume it's personal. They presume the financial problems is purely them, whereas they don't realise everybody is exactly having that. So the benefits they get from being sat in a room with 12 or 15 people just like them that are reflecting their own problems back at them, they start to feel normal and they start to find other tools to get over particular difficulties, yeah?
How did you become involved with Andy's Man Club?
It's quite a strange one. In 2016, my son had just signed up to become a trainee paramedic in Sheffield. And I was having a conversation with him one week because I thought he seemed a little bit down, not as usual cheery self. So I asked him to talk me through his week and what he'd been doing. And as a trainee paramedic, he had actually attended 3 suicides that week.
Oh my goodness.
Right? And that involved cutting an 18-year-old down, which is absolutely horrendous. And that was still ringing in my head. And that weekend I saw they'd actually advertised they were opening an Andy's Man Club in Wakefield, which was the 4th club for Andy's Man Club. And I thought, I've got to go along and see if there's anything I can get to help the situation or any information I can get to help my son. As it transpires, that was like 7 years ago. I went and I never left. 3 or 4 weeks later, I became a facilitator. And then I headed to South Yorkshire to open up in the fire station in January 2019.
Can I ask, Declan, when you went along to that first session,
yeah,
what was it about that moved you so much that you wanted to personally get involved and give your time?
It was the impact of somebody taking their own lives on what that actually means to the family. I couldn't believe there was 4,500 people taking their own life, and nobody even reports it. It doesn't appear in the newspaper. It's not something at that time we were all talking about. We're all talking about it now, and there's many senior people in the royal family have been very supportive in bringing this into the forefront so that we can talk, because to be fair, that's what it's all about, is talking and getting people to talk. So when we get men coming through the door that have not been able to talk to anybody, and send them out 3 or 4 weeks later, and they go home and start talking to the family and the wife, it's like it's game changing for them. And we've realised was in the early days it was all about suicide prevention. We've actually realised the earlier we start talking to people, the more effective it is, because they get tools to manage the situation at a much earlier point. I think having opened up in Sheffield, we were growing and growing and growing week by week, and then lockdown came and it wiped us out effectively, because we had to go onto an online situation for the first lockdown. By the second lockdown, we had acquired mental health charity status, so we were able to reopen our meetings throughout the second lockdown, provided we obviously done it within the COVID rules. And by the end of COVID, we'd actually achieved the Queen's Award for services to mental health. So in terms of recognition and what it means to people, I think it has been there, and it's been useful.
I wonder, did you see an increase in uptake during COVID, because that was an incredibly challenging time for all of our mental health?
Absolutely. Look, I mean, the facilitators, I think, became very mobile, and we would actually go to the scene if somebody was in a difficult situation and try to intervene, which we have done many times, almost always successfully, because somebody once said about me that I must have attended more suicides than anybody else on the planet, which sounds really grim, but actually it's when people phone, they want to talk. They want somebody to come and talk to them and get them back to a better place, if you like.
Yeah. Some people might ask, with the Andy's Man Club, why is this club only for men? Why not men and women to come and talk?
Yeah, I from the early days felt really guilty about that. The bottom line is 75% of suicides were men in a certain age group, and that's why it was targeted specifically there. Secondly, the safe space we've got for them to talk about anything wouldn't work in a mixed sex environment, because it would be men being men. It would be difficult to open up. It would be recreating the non-talking environment at which they got stuck in before. We have assisted many times in setting up women's groups, and they never take off. And I'm sure that's because women simply don't need them. Women are better at talking to each other. For example, if there's a relationship breakdown, the female will phone her friends and they'll come around with bottles of wine and they will put the world to rights, and she'll go to bed feeling a little bit better. He will take himself home and get in his own bed and blame himself. So it's just a difference in the way we're structured, I think. I used to apologise for it not being also inclusive of women, but when I realised that for every suicide, it negatively affects around about 200 people, and that includes wives, mums and daughters. So yeah, we are for men, but we're for your men. Everyone has the men in their life that's important.
Yeah. Can you talk us through what happens during one of the meetings, and what someone might expect for the first time if they're turning up?
Okay, basically the agenda for the meeting is a fixed agenda. So if you went into any one of the 185 clubs, you would experience exactly the same meeting in terms of structure. The structure basically is kind of disarming questions. Tell us your name and tell us what brought you here tonight, how you come to find us. The next one will be, how's your week been? Yeah, so we can get a little bit of an opportunity for people to sort of say what's going on in the here and now. And we move towards what is it you want to get off your chest, which comes in the middle. And then the questions that follow tend to be more uplifting again. So what was your favorite piece of music as a teenager? What, the aspirational that moves your mind to a more positive place. That's the structure. Now, the conversations can go anywhere. There's no limitations on what people can talk about. We have safeguarding rules in place. If somebody should tell us they plan to hurt themselves or anybody else, we have to take it outside of the room. But beyond that, it is a safe space for them to say anything they want to say.
Yeah.
And people do share, but I think the simplicity of what is achieved just by a guy can come through the door and not be ready to speak, and that's fine. He can sit there week after week and never speak. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's listening to people reflecting his own story back at him. If it was relationship breakup, if it was career crisis, if it was financial, there is somebody else in the room that's going through the journey, and maybe a few months in front, or maybe a couple of years in front. You know, typically if somebody come into the meeting because they broke up with a partner, there will also be somebody in the meeting that broke up 3 weeks ago. There will be somebody in the meeting that broke up 18 months ago. And there will be somebody in the meeting that broke up 10 years ago. And to gain the perspectives on the particular subject, I think helps the individual. Now, usually within 2 or 3 weeks, people want to have their say because they can relate to what they're hearing and they feel involved and feel part of it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And there's free coffee and biscuits. And who does not like free coffee and biscuits?
Exactly. So it's what kind of environments are they held in? Where do you hold the clubs? What?
The clubs, we basically look for venues. We have 2 prerequisites from a venue. One, it is completely free, and 2, it is completely permanent. We hate to actually move a venue once we open it, because it might be that a man has found out a venue and he's not ready for it, shoves it in the back of his wallet, and in 4 months' time, when he really needs it, he comes to that door at 7 o'clock on a Monday, and we make sure that door is open. Yeah. Typically, we have in football stadiums, we get good support over at Leeds. Fire stations are like they've been so good to us. Obviously, we lost our fire stations during lockdown because they were frontline workers, but they give the entire ground floor of the headquarters in Sheffield, so we can have like 4 or 5 rooms going there.
Yeah, fantastic.
Doncaster, Rotherham, Barnsley, Chesterfield, you know, they all come back with suitable venues, which we go and assess, and if it's right for us, then we go forward. The reason we demand it to be completely free is we will never make a charge on a man coming through the door. There's no money involved whatsoever.
Yeah, yeah. How do you get the money to pay for things like the coffee and tea? Is it volunteer funded? Do you get any support from?
We have people sending donations all the time, although it's not a huge amount of money to keep the show on the road, if you know what I mean. You're talking about coffee and biscuits once a week, but we have Asda and several other of the major supermarkets actually regularly donate, and you know, they say come down at the weekend and pick up what you need for the Monday sessions, and I know that all the way around the country.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the money that's gone into Andy's Man Club gets utilised for promotion, you know, because it's reaching. We have that saying, every time we go to a town and we open a club for the first time, you always stood there wondering, is anybody going to come? You know, you then put all the chairs out and everything's good. Is anybody going to come? And we have the saying that we share between us: if one guy comes, then job done, because we're reaching for that one man all the time that actually needs us to be there.
Yeah, yeah. What are some of the largest impacts that you've personally seen the club make in people's lives? Have you seen lives turn around, friendships formed? What have you witnessed?
All of the above. And if I was to sit and try to think of what the biggest one or the best one was, because every one of them is absolutely fantastic in its own right. But as I sit here now, I've got many hundreds of men friends on Facebook that I know through the club, and I watch each of their lives carrying on developing. You know, new relationship, getting married, having a new child, career progressions, all of which wouldn't happen had that event not been intervened with at the time. So there's no end of them. The darkest places that people get to, it's a temporary place, and the situation always changes. And to have Andy's Man Club, just to be able to be there for that transition and get it back on the right line, in the right frame of thinking again, that actually pays back over and over and over again. It would be very rare to go out in Sheffield for me and not have somebody run into me that actually says, "Oh, I remember you from this club and 2 years ago, and it's made such a difference," you know. And to see children, they actually do baby Andy's Man Club t-shirts. And these guys, when the babies are really tiny, they put them in the t-shirts. And, you know, that for me is probably what sums it up more than anything. And just for you talk about the friendships, yeah. Almost every one of those men that's ever come through one of my clubs will remain a close friend forever. And it's like you've taken down some of the barriers that men have, and all of a sudden talk to each other. But they don't restrict it to there. They become these new speaking to people, and they leave the club and they go start talking at work, and they start talking to friends. So in some respects, it's changing their lives on an individual basis. But I do believe that Andy's Man Club has been a huge contributor to changing the culture around mental health and its perception.
Yeah. It's incredible. I love what you said there about that dark place, just remembering that it is temporary and things will change, and when people are in that dark place, that you're there for them.
Yeah, now you can relate to what I say in that dark place. Yeah. If you are in that dark place on your own with nobody to talk to, it's very hard to actually change gear or change direction or do something to move forward. Yeah. But when you belong to something like an Andy's Man Club and you know on Monday you're going to be able to go there and offload the circumstances surrounding what's put you feeling like this, yeah, you know that there's like a safety net. And in addition, I know most of the guys, they link up outside. You'd be some of the people, they form bands. Some of the guys that form football clubs. There is football teams within Andy's Man Club, but during lockdown, I think for me was the most camaraderie I've ever met, because we couldn't meet as a group, but we could all walk in the woods. And it's funny, you go walking in certain woods around the reservoirs near Bradfield, and somebody turns up with sausages and somebody turns up with bacon. And before you know it, there's a fire, and you 2 meters social distance, of course, but you sat in a circle and everybody has a great evening. Some of the best times was done like that.
Yeah. Is there what kind of age range is there? Is there an average age? Do you get younger, older? Who turns up at the clubs?
I'm gonna stop short of saying there is an ideal target age, because if we can't do under 18s, even though under 18s do try to come to the club, because from a safeguarding point of view, we're just not equipped to be able to do that. Yeah. So anybody over the age of 18, I would say it's usually between 20 and 45 is probably the predominant age. Yeah.
Okay.
However, we do have people that then go back and tell their dad all about it. And the dad comes next week, and then the granddad comes. So we have had people into their 80s that actually come as regulars to Andy's Man Club. I think the age sort of 25 to 45, it's a tough age, and we live in a tough world. You look on social media and everybody's got a Ferrari, haven't they? And everybody's life is doing so wonderful. And I think between the age of 25 and 45, you suddenly realise you're not going to be a Concorde pilot, or you're not going to be a Formula One driver, and all of those perhaps ambitions that you once had, you somehow have to transition into learning what life really is and life's limitations, I guess.
Yeah. So here in Derby and Derbyshire, where are the nearest clubs for people to find?
But what I would suggest in Derbyshire, I don't know, that was always just south of my line. I went as far as like Chesterfield. But what we actually have, if anyone types in Andy's Man Club into Google, it'll pull it up on the search engine. And then once you go into the website, put your postcode in, and it will tell you where all your nearest clubs are. And it will give you choices as well, because transport-wise, the nearest one might not be the easiest one to get to. And in addition, if people are sort of based out in the sticks, so to speak, in the middle of the countryside, and it's hard to get to a club, we have kept the online one running on a Monday. It runs exactly the same format. It's just you do it like on Teams.
Yeah.
So even people that are on the far tip of Scotland can actually benefit from being able to access it. Yeah.
So if people want to find you, type in Andy's Man Club website, social media presence as well. Are you on Facebook?
Absolutely. Facebook. Yeah.
Declan, thank you so much for talking to us about the club. It's really important work that you're doing, so it's great to get the word out there for any men who want to make contact.
A couple of final points to leave ringing in their ears. If I was to sort of leave one message about Andy's Man Club, AMC opens the doors every Monday at 7 p.m, except the bank holiday. You do not need a referral. You do not need an appointment. There is no waiting list, and AMC is completely free of charge. So anyone that needs it, it's there and it's available now. And Andy's Man Club will never be full. It will never be too full to welcome the next guy that needs us, because as soon as the venue starts to get full, we open the next venue.
What a resource.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Declan.
Thank you.